Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Simply Nerdy. Today I'm your host David, because I have a topic I wish to discuss. I have strong opinions on. Included is Anthony and Steven joining me. And to get straight to the topic, today I'm going to talk about 5 ways Paper Mario the Origami King is better than the Thousand Year Door. And
dun dun dun, hot take.
And in parentheses, and vice versa. I'm gonna give Thousand Year Door some points too, but so to get right into it, I haven't briefed Anthony and Steven on these points, so it'll be interesting to hear their opinion. Number 1, the Origami King has more streamlined progression. It respects your time better, in my opinion. And I have a few examples. So there's absolutely no grinding in Origami King, and I like that. I've played enough traditional RPGs that just force you to grind for EXP, and it feels like padding, a waste of time. So I prefer the progression system in Origami King. It's more like pieces of heart in Zelda, and I like that. You find these items, these hearts. Well, what are they? Are they hearts?
They almost look like pieces of heart without the gold border around them.
Oh, there you go. Yep. You collect them, and you get like a permanent upgrade, a lot like Zelda, and that's your form of leveling up. In fact, weaker enemies that you fought in the past, once you've collected some of these hearts, you can just defeat them outside of battle, and so there's no like being forced to fight weak enemies just because you accidentally bumped into them. I like it. I prefer that. And other examples of the ways it respects my time. And this is a personal problem. Playing Thousand Year Door for the first time and now the remake. Goombella was a character, your partner character, and her role is to like give you all sorts of information. You can push a button in any room or any town location in the game, and she will tell you something about it. You can go up to any NPC and she'll tell you something about them. And I'm a completionist, so especially the first time I played the game, like I felt like I had to go up to everything, hear the special lore about the character or the location, and you can't skip the dialogue if you've heard it before, and so you accidentally trigger it again. It destroyed the pacing for Thousand Year Door for me. Thankfully, I'm more mature now and I can control my completionist tendencies a little bit more. Having played the remake, I realized what was happening again. I was like, oh no, this is ruining the game for me. I have to force myself to not do that. And then I was able to enjoy the game again. But that is like a little thing where I never had that problem playing Origami King, where it's my completionist tendencies were used against me.
Well, I have to say that I was also annoyed at the amount of talking that Goombella did. Maybe it's my ADHD, I don't know. But there was a lot of dialogue, and whenever you recall, I mean, the part where I found the most useful to use Goombella is during battles, because obviously she could tattle and tell you, the enemy's weaknesses and their strengths, and that's super helpful, super useful. But at the same time, whenever you recall what you've learned from Goombella, you have to hear the dialogue all over again, and I don't want to hear the dialogue again. I just want to see the stats. And let me look at, just the stats. Just show me the stats, and then close it. And I don't want to walk through that dialogue again. Go ahead.
It would have been such a simple quality of life change to make the dialogue. You can speed it up or skip it. I don't know. Maybe you can a little bit, but it was never enough. Like if I accidentally triggered something I'd heard before, I was like, oh, okay, fine. I have to. I think maybe you can hold down the button, it goes slightly faster, but you can't skip it. And it was always very frustrating. So that was something that it kind of bothered me a lot. I had to actively avoid Goombella.
Anthony,
I don't know. Maybe I never really had problems with it in either playthrough, either 20 years ago or now, because I just actively avoided her anyway. I don't know. I mean, she's got her uses, but I don't know. As a kid, playing the original version, I don't remember really using her much in any context. In fact, I underutilized her tattle ability, and that was to my detriment back then. But now I'm just, 20 20 years later, I've learned what things in a game I actually want to engage with, and not necessarily doing something just because it's there. So in this case, I was like, nope. I'm feeling. I'm starting to feel a decrease in enjoyment. So bye, Goombella, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably what most people do. But the people on this panel know I'm a completionist, and so it required me to resist my natural style of playing in order to enjoy the game. Going to point number 2, and it's related. It's focusing on the heart container method of progression that you do in Origami King, and how I prefer that so much more to EXP grinding. And I just wanted to get specifically your opinions on that, Anthony and maybe Steven, but I know Anthony beat Origami King, so.
I feel like the way I remember it, getting the heart containers seem to have a little bit more, well, I mean, I guess that's what we're calling it. I don't remember what they called it in game, but it felt more rewarding in the moment. You're like, ooh, this cool collectible, and look what it does to my stats. That's so fun. But for me, the functional use of it was less important. And it's kind of interesting because, I mean, I didn't, even in Thousand Year Door with its RPG system, I didn't put a ton of points into HP either, at least not, I spent most of my time doing either BP or FP for various reasons, the way I like doing my strategies. But the usefulness of the stat was much more rewarding in Thousand Year Door than Origami King. But I can agree that the sense of accomplishment at getting one was more palpable. There was something a little bit, I don't know, brighter about it. I don't know if there's a better way to describe it. But
right.
So honestly, I guess I'll put it this way. If they had done more with the combat system in Origami King, and there's going to be plenty to talk about there from my perspective, then I think I probably would have preferred the heart container method of stat improvement from Origami King. But at the end of the day, this is a theme for me. The more purpose something serves, the more I tend to like it.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with you that the usefulness of the stat upgrades is much higher in Thousand Year Door. You get those stat upgrades in Origami King, and in battle, it's not quite as useful. But going back to that, I really appreciated I'd get that upgrade, and then I could defeat enemies outside of battle, like these weaker enemies from this area I just cleared. Like I wouldn't be forced. I wouldn't have to equip a badge in order to not fight them. Right?
Okay. I was gonna say, you did know about the first strike badge, right?
Yeah, same. Yeah, I was gonna do the same thing. But yes, you don't have to equip anything to do it though.
Hold on though. Did that require any BP? It was no more than one if it needed any.
I think it was one BP. One. So I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, and if so, it was annoying me that I had to give up other badges to make space for it. So anyway,
fair enough.
So number 3, I prefer in Origami King. I think this is better. The more open area exploration that you get, having recently played Thousand Year Door and beaten it, the comparison was like I felt this way from the start, but after finishing Thousand Year Door, I felt it even more. That in Thousand Year Door, a lot of the areas you explore are narrow hallways, basically. Like they're trying for like a diorama or something like that. So you go from room to room, and you're just walking left to right, basically. And there's often not much to do up and down. It's not always. There's some rooms that have more puzzly elements and ways to explore. But I much prefer the large open areas in Origami King, and I also feel like there's more ways to interact with the environment. In Origami King, they give you the confetti mechanic, so you're exploring these areas and you're finding big holes in the world, and you can repair them with your confetti. And in general, I feel like there was more puzzles to solve in order to progress, and I like that.
I also enjoyed that. The open world aspect was really nice. And yeah, the confetti added so much. Even though it didn't seem like a lot, like I would hit every tree I walked past just to get more confetti. And then just collecting it, like, I don't know. It was so satisfying because of the sound design and just seeing the way the paperboard just roll up in Mario and the way it sounded. It was just like, ooh, it was just kind of satisfying to collect and to throw. Obviously, the throwing the confetti was fun to see.
Like even if you weren't repairing anything, right? It's just like,
yeah,
fun animation.
yeah,
A cool way.
it's fun.
And but like you said, collecting it, like a lot of the pieces of the environment, you can replenish that limited confetti resource, and just the need to repair the world, which they often had interesting rewards for that, I think, and also ways to progress where you need to repair these holes in order to move on. And so going to Thousand Year Door, and there was trees and stuff, and I hit them, and not much had happened. I don't know.
True.
The world felt more static in Thousand Year Door.
I was going to say that this is one thing where I won't, and offer really any counterpoints on. I remember even before we had chatted about this subject in the past, for the first time, that I remember thinking, there is kind of this sense of loss at, the less open aspect areas of Origami King. And I don't know if it's so much the openness that was the biggest deal for me, although I did feel like that allowed for more panoramic views of things, and that was, kind of a fun way to experience the art style and the character, the flair that they gave to the world in Origami King. But also the what's the word I'm looking for? Just how much there was to do in each given area in Origami King was definitely far more pronounced. In some ways it almost felt Breath of the Wild like. You're like, oh, that looks like something very interesting over there. I'm going to go look, and then you usually get rewarded for it. Like the hidden toads was probably my favorite explorative mechanic in Origami King. I really enjoyed finding those guys. Some of the things they did were just really fun and funny. Like the one that you find at the flag, and he goes up, and it's like he finishes like the traditional Super Mario Bros. Level conclusion thing. Anyway, just some fun personality there. It felt like there was definitely more reasons to explore, and there was more to do. So yeah. At the same time, I will say that it was something I kind of realized almost by surprise one time. So it wasn't like, man, this is just really disappointing and lame this whole time. It was more just like one time I was walking through an area, probably about halfway through the game at this point, and it just clicked. I was like, oh, that is a little sad. I mean, that's something I would change if given the choice. But at the same time, I suppose as a remake, maybe that wouldn't have been able to, maintain the soul of the game. Maybe it would have changed too much.
Talking about Thousand Year Door specifically, right?
Yes, yes. But anyway, yeah, I will agree. The approach to area design, as well as how much content they put in each one, I think Origami King did better.
Yes, and minor spoilers for Thousand Year Door. The area where this was the highest contrast for me was when you're on the train, and you're doing this journey in Thousand Year Door on the train. And they tell, there is an interesting story there, but everything is literally a train car tunnel, and with rooms attached. And the story makes you go back and forth between these cars over and over, and go into these rooms. Every time you go between cars, there's a loading screen. Every time you go into one of the rooms, there's a transition animation, and it got pretty old. You have some opinions on that, right, Steven?
Yes, I do. You just said it. I don't have to say anything else. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, the train, man. Oh, that was the worst one. That's all I'll say. I think David mentioned everything else already.
Yeah.
Anthony, did you already say something on this? Okay, no.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it didn't bother me as much, but I knew I remembered what to do for my first playthrough, so it didn't bother me as much. I will say, though, it's not, as I open the door, I'm like, okay, open this door and then close it. So, it wasn't my favorite thing, but I didn't hate it. Anyway.
But can you
Fair.
agree it's the biggest contrast between the world design between Thousand Year Door and Origami King?
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair statement. At least mechanically speaking, I think there was some aesthetic things I liked about the train.
Yeah.
Especially like the panoramically moving backgrounds, through the windows and some of the different details. I thought that was fun. But mechanically speaking, yes.
Maybe this is the first point then, point number 3, where we all agree Origami King's better. Right?
In that regard. I just had to clarify, at least to our audience, that from a mechanical game design standpoint, we are not saying that open always equals better. Just that Origami King managed to take the best parts of open world and combine it with a vibrant world that made it so that the two of them legitimately made everything better, from our perspective at least.
Yeah. Point number 4. I think that Origami King has more gameplay variety, including there's a few real-time combat that feels almost like a Zelda game. There's certain boss enemies that are like these big paper mache type things, and you fight them in real time. You don't go into a battle wheel. You don't go into the ring system. You fight them real time. You have to find the weak spot, hit it with your hammer. And there's a few bosses like that. There's one that I remember in particular where you're on a ship and it rises out of the ocean. You have to fight it in one of those real-time style battles. And I enjoyed that. It was kind of fun to play a Paper Mario that felt like it had yet another piece of Zelda in it, going along with the piece of heart. Now we have these real-time battles that reminded me of something you'd do, a boss battle you'd do in a 2D Zelda game or something. So in addition to those Zelda-like boss battles, even the normal boss battles you do in the game change up the battle gameplay. And I'm going to admit that Origami King's rings battle system is the most divisive part of the game. And I'll admit it's a little weak with the normal battles that you have to do. But the boss battles, they switch it up. The boss is now in the middle of the ring and you're on the outside, and the entire thing is a huge puzzle. The puzzle is to figure out how to solve these rings so you can even reach the boss to do damage. And some of these puzzles were just surprisingly and hilariously fun. So I'm very grateful that there was that twist on the ring system that ended up being super fun for me. It all adds up to just this large amount of gameplay variety that you get in the game, and I enjoy that. I like the variety. In Thousand Year Door, you have the one style battle system, which is solid. Traditional RPG with the partner characters. And you have that the entire game. You're gonna get badges and other upgrades to have nuance to how you engage with the battle, but it's the same system the whole game. There's less variety there.
I like to hear that. That's not what I think, but I'd like to hear that.
Not talking about the normal ring system, Steve. I know that you have opinions on that.
Yeah, the bosses were different and intriguing, and when you do figure them out, they are satisfying.
I'm not arguing that the ring system is better than the traditional battles that you have in Thousand Year Door, but I am arguing that the variety you get in Origami King, with the types of gameplay you do, is a bonus. That's something that I wish would enjoy seeing come back. Not the ring system. I'm talking about
not the ring system, but yes, variety. Yes, absolutely. I can get behind that.
So, if we had the traditional combat from Thousand Year Door, but we also had things mixed in like these real-time battles you do in Origami King, or even these extremely puzzly battles, the boss battles you did in Origami King, that would be fun for me to have come back.
I mean, let's put it out there right at the start. I vastly prefer Thousand Year Door's approach to combat over Origami King. But I think part of the problem that, kind of what I think at least is, the source of what you're describing, the problem you're describing, is that Thousand Year Door is still just kind of too easy. And so, the strength of an RPG system where you can create different builds for your characters and, your different strategies, it requires a challenge to push you to get there in the first place. Because if you can just say hammer goes bonk and you win, you're not really going to be much more strategic. And so even though I still, okay, so again, Thousand Year Door is probably my favorite Paper Mario overall. So even though I found it to be easier than I would have liked, it's still an amazing game. But I feel like for me, when you get to the final boss and all of a sudden the thing is kicking your trash and, everything is super clutch, and you start thinking, okay, if I lose, how could I change my build to counteract these? Oh, I need more AoE attacks so I can counter, this thing that the boss does, or I should have equipped this badge, and that will help protect me from these negative status effects that were really messing me up, kind of thing. When an RPG in particular can get to the point where you're saying, how can I change my strategy to win? That's when it hits the perfect sweet spot. So anyway, I feel like if they ever decided to do a DLC where they added like a challenge mode where you could play through the game, but everything was ratcheted up to more that level of challenge, then the game would shoot through the roof when it's already, pretty highly rated for me. So that's a bit of an aside.
I agree with that though, Anthony. I want to agree with you. That final boss is, and maybe like one or two other moments in the game a little bit, but the final boss of Thousand Year Door gave me that strategic feeling, and that's when the traditional combat system really shines. Like, okay, I'm having to think. It's not just push A, choose a menu to do that, and do that until you win. It's like, oh, I need to rethink maybe how my build, like what I've equipped, what abilities I need to use, and that's when a traditional RPG system really shines. So I agree with you that I think Thousand Year Door is a little too easy, and if it was harder, maybe I would have felt that combat system shine the entire game.
Mm-hmm. There is almost this sense of, hey, I really like this system. I really like how engaging it is with its action combat, but oh man, that battle was over too quick. Even with some bosses where I'm like, it's only got 50 HP. Ugh. Just smash it real quick. And so for me, the final boss, especially when it just kept on healing itself over and over and over, I'm just like, oh man, this is going on, and I love it more and more, and oh my gosh, I'm gonna die, and oh my gosh, this is so great. And in fact, I ended up winning that round, and I was kind of disappointed because I was like, I didn't get the chance to go back and try some of my counter strategies that I was thinking about while I was getting my butt kicked. Anyway, that's my jam. That's why I play RPGs. Anyway, but to go back to, so we were talking about the variety present in Origami King and kind of the meaning that imparted to the game. I will agree with you. I think that, one of the things that is very much to the game's credit is that despite my hatred for the ring system, it gave me enough variety and enough opportunities to not engage that I still thoroughly enjoyed the game. I still had criticisms, and I think that, I guess I still haven't decided where I rank it out of every Paper Mario game. I know it's at the very least at the top of the new school of Paper Mario games, by a landslide. But it's to its credit that, it had this system that I did not like, but I was still, able to enjoy most of the game. And just as kind of a quick series of complaints about what they did with the basic combat system. I mean, first of all, the game can play itself. You just ask the toads to solve the puzzle for you, and then you press buttons, and then you win. And sometimes there was a little bit of a sense of, I can see how to solve that. That was kind of cool. And then, then you play an entire game that way, and you're like, I'm not having fun anymore. So normal combat system, I kind of despised it, but I didn't have to engage with it so often that it ruined the game for me. Boss combat, far superior. Those battles were hype.
Do you have any of the complaints you have for the normal ring system? Does any of that apply to the bosses, or does the way they switched it up completely solve that problem for you?
It solves most of them. It was far more cerebral, far more engaging. I think if they'd had the bravery to remove the ability to extend your timer or ask the toads to help you solve the puzzle, then that would have really added some nice, challenging edge that just would have made it feel that much more exciting. I think the fact that you can still ask them to solve things for you is lame. But if you,
I didn't use any totem.
Yeah, no, I didn't either. And that's part of why I was able to still enjoy it. If you have the restraint to force yourself to engage with the challenge and try to get good and sometimes fail, then there's some compelling stuff in there. And I think most of it is found in the boss battles. The way that I was able to map routes that gave me access to different strategies and different actions was honestly pretty hype several times. And man, that Valumental battle theme just was the icing on the cake. Even if I had no idea what I was doing, I'd still be jamming to that battle theme. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I hope that's point number 5 for you, because I was kind of surprised it wasn't point number 1. But anyway,
hold on. You can't. Before we move on, I just want to agree with you. What I loved about the boss battles, I didn't use any hints or extra time. Like, I just treated it like a puzzle to be solved, and it was almost always challenging. So it didn't matter. Like, you didn't have to worry about, oh, I'm over leveled for this battle, so it's going to be too easy. The puzzle still needed to be figured out, right? And going back, you can't over level because the progression system doesn't let you grind, and like, you're gonna be the progression you need to be for this boss battle. So I really enjoyed that. With Thousand Year Door, where Anthony was saying it was a lot of these boss battles were too easy, I never felt that way playing Origami King. I never felt like, oh dang, this boss, I just hit him with my hammer and he's gone.
It's definitely true. The boss battles were basically across the board the highlights of the game, and combat wise at least.
The problem with the normal ring system is that the puzzle solution is always the same.
Yes.
They were going for like, let's turn it into a puzzle. But when the solution is always, line up these enemies either in a row or in a group.
And the puzzle anymore?
Yeah, it stops being a puzzle because the solution is the same every time. Like, maybe there's slightly different routes to do it, but that got old pretty fast.
If they had made it so that all battles used the same method as bosses, I think I would have had a lot less complaints. I don't know how they could have made that work with normal battles, but I think they could have found a way. So I'll leave that there. The real-time combat was the only one that I basically had zero complaints about, other than, of course, it didn't tend to have as epic of music to accompany it. But that was my favorite. I loved those battles. I thought they were really, really fun. I couldn't find things to complain about, and that made me happy.
So now, for the grand finale, point number 5. The 5th thing that Origami King does better than Thousand Year Door, and that is the music. Point number 1, but I want it to be my finale because I think that...
Yeah, that makes sense. Save the best for last.
Yeah. It's the one thing that I think is cannot be argued against. There's so many songs from Origami King that I still listen to, even though it's been years since I played the game. The music is so great that the remake of Thousand Year Door is taking notes from it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Anthony? You noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
You noticed literally some of the Origami King themes, motifs, found their way into the remake soundtrack for Thousand Year Door.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, it seemed like while Nintendo, they realized that what the fans wanted was more of, the Thousand Year Door, at least its approach to storytelling and combat and partner systems and things like that. But they definitely understood what Origami King's best feature was. So this is kind of a personal hot take from me, but excluding, so this is my opinion, and maybe I need to revisit some soundtracks to make sure I still feel this way, but excluding the Xenoblade series, which I think has some of the finest music in all of gaming, the Origami King might be Nintendo's number 1 first-party soundtrack of all time. And feel free to comment, to put comments that say, "Oh, you're forgetting about this game. How are you crazy to be saying that?" But there's almost no songs in Origami King that I dislike. I can't think of any off the top of my head, at least. And oh my gosh, especially the boss battles. Shout out in particular to I'm just going to name the song names. So Disco Devil and the Shifty Sticker. Those songs, oh my heck! Like the battles themselves, and they weren't, but they could have been the lamest, most check the box kind of things in the world. But I still would have lost my mind listening to that music, accompanying it. And so, I mean, holy crap! They just knocked it out of the flippin' park with the soundtrack in Origami King. And like David was saying, one of my favorite features about the remake of Thousand Year Door is that they really brought a lot of that in. Not only did they bring in some leitmotifs, sorry, I always say that wrong. The leitmotifs from Origami King, but they also want my favorite thing, the thing that made me smile the biggest when I was playing the Thousand Year Door remake, was when they did the themed variations for the battle theme in the different chapters. Yes. Oh my gosh, I was like, because the original battle theme is fine, but I got tired of it after chapter 2 and stopped really listening to it. And so every new chapter in this one, when I'm just like, oh, that's a cool variation, it just kept it super fresh. Anyway, so that's probably my favorite change in the Thousand Year Door remake. And still, I would still say that Origami King, takes the cake musically.
Yes, like you were saying, how the battle theme would evolve in Origami King to like match the area. Like you have the traditional sounding one that was really jazzy that you start out with, and then you go to this new place, Autumn Mountain, where
that was my favorite.
My favorite song was Autumn Mountain. Holy crap!
And forget the lame blue streamer battle. Oh. Forget that blue streamer one. It's Autumn Mountain all the way. Can't believe that they did that.
We interrupted you, Dave. Yeah, we love Autumn Mountain. Yep.
Yeah. And they changed the whole theme to have like this Oriental sound, Asian sound, to match the area, and they through the whole game it's like that. So, what a simple way to give you so much variety. You have like the same composition, but you use different instruments, you change little things about it, and it gives it so much variety, so much fun. It really does. The boss themes are all epic and amazing. The ones Anthony mentioned. A personal favorite song of mine is from the end of the game, the Origami Castle. Sorry for it's that spoilers to even say that, but like exploring that place and hearing that music, seeing the visuals they have and how it went with the music, like it's just something that I'd never forget when I remember playing Origami. Playing Origami King.
It's probably the best song in the game. That's my opinion, at least.
If you don't want to play Origami King, at least listen to the soundtrack, because you're bound to hear something that you'll like. So,
yeah.
Unless you're crazy.
That's King.
If you like video game music, then you'll probably find something you like. And
now, I will throw in, that's not to say that Thousand Year Door does not have good music, but it's on a different level for me. I feel like Origami King, it was easy to have it stand out. But even with the original release of Thousand Year Door, there were only a few songs that I was like, oh, I want to listen to that song again, outside of the game. Yeah. They've definitely improved that with the reorchestrations. I thought that was, again, just the reorchestrations in general was massively improved the soundtrack of the remake for Thousand Year Door. But
although Lisa might disagree, but
she might, But Origami King, still when I think of which one I would want to listen to, if I had to pick one over the other, it would absolutely be Origami King.
Yeah, and to just agree with you, I'd personally think that it's one of Nintendo's best first-party soundtracks as well. If I try to just think off the top of my head, if there's any that top it, I don't have any at the moment. So, but like Anthony said, you should comment what Nintendo games, what you think have the best soundtracks.
Please do.
Man, I'm curious.
So,
for sure.
Now I have to do my due diligence and give my 5 points for Thousand Year Door. That it does better than Origami King. No, point number 1. Obviously, the unique character designs. Not just the partner characters, but everyone you see in the world having these unique designs, clothing, body types. I don't know.
Far more character to the characters.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a clear winner for Thousand Year Door. And in fact, playing the game recently, there was occasionally like a normal looking toad. And it's like, I don't even want to talk to that guy. Like, he doesn't look interesting. So for the Paper Mario series to like discard that, it was just dumb. You know, to have everything look like a generic Mario character. Obviously, Thousand Year Door is the clear winner there. So that's number one. Number two, the world itself in Thousand Year Door. I'm not talking about the mechanical layout design, but the culture, how it feels more lived in, interesting lore, not just, oh, this is Mushroom Kingdom again. That is clearly better. You have distinct societies, cultures. It doesn't all revolve around Mario and Princess Peach. You know, there's probably even people that don't know who you are in the game. You have to be like, oh, you're Mario. I think I've heard of you. You know, anyway. So I loved that. I loved playing the game and feeling like I'm going to places that feel unique, interesting, as far as the character designs go, the cultures go. It's great in Thousand Year Door. Even just the visuals are amazing. Like, I love how you go to the forest area and the floor looks like a mosaic of glittering leaves. Just the locations look visually more unique. So, unless you have something to say about it, I'm moving on. Number three is your partner characters that genuinely contribute to the battle system and the strategy you use. Like why Nintendo got rid of that in the Paper Mario series is just ridiculous. Yeah. Having the unique partner characters and the traditional RPG system is something that I think all Paper Mario fans can agree on is better. And it needs to come back, which hopefully this remake is a good sign that it will.
Not to mention that it was seen as the impossible remake since it basically represented everything that they had turned their backs on. So the fact that they did it so faithfully and went above and beyond has me hopeful.
Yes. This is my point number 4. The traditional combat system with no weird gimmicks, no weird ring system, and it does have good progression. So even though I've complained about EXP grinding, it's a very minimal problem in Thousand Year Door. Like the Paper Mario series up to that point had it well done. You didn't have to like stop the story and go grind for hours.
Most of the time, so the thing I like about just traditional Paper Mario in general, so I guess basically only the first 2 games. So what I was going to say is I feel like the way they balanced the star point system, how it's always 100 points, you never have to just, pursue some arbitrarily higher number just because you're level 2 instead of level 1. I liked that. I liked how the way that they signaled that you should move on is when you got, attenuating rewards for fighting the same enemies. So if you get to the point where you're getting a single star point for a scripted battle, then okay, it's time to move on. So the funny thing about the Paper Mario games is that they're definitely, I feel like they're very balanced for a steady progression. I mean, they're probably potentially the most grindy games in the world if you try to max everything out, but why would you do that? Because you don't, the game is not even that hard anyway. So I thought they did a decent job, going forward. I will still say, to David's original point, that, in some ways the more like tactile feel of the progression system in Origami King, if mixed with the combat system of Thousand Year Door might interest me even more. I don't know, but yeah, Paper Mario is by no means an example to point to as one that requires grinding.
Yes.
If you want that, go look at like Octopath Traveler for the secret final, the secret boss.
Yep. I like Octopath Traveler, but that is my most recent game that I played that probably abused the need for EXP grinding and drove me insane. So, so that's not a problem. Having the traditional RPG combat in Thousand Year Door is great because it respects my time as far as traditional RPG progression goes. And I don't think any future Paper Mario games, I don't think Nintendo can go back to any gimmicky system. Let's not have.
I hope they don't.
Let's not do sticker star type stuff. Clearly, the worst Paper Mario. Let's not do the card battling that they did in Color Splash, and the ring system in Origami King. Let's just have traditional RPG mechanics with with partner characters that can help you out in battle and add to the strategy. But maybe let's also have some more challenge so that we can appreciate those traditional RPG mechanics more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I will say I don't mind them experimenting on the traditional approaches to combat. I just don't want these. I don't want these gimmicks where it filters my ability to engage with the system. Or it's like you have to do a puzzle before you can hit the enemy. I mean, dumb stuff like that. Like an example of an interesting change up to traditional battle systems, I think, is really well illustrated by the Mario and Luigi series. Which, by the way, I am so stinking stoked that we're getting a new game. Every time one of those games got announced, it was like Christmas morning for me. I love those games. So anyway, I loved how it was still a traditional system. Still progression through leveling and increasing your stats, but it made the way you engage in like the different bros attacks and things like that, and how you can dodge things if you're well timed and skilled. That was very fun for me. And so for me, like, I want them to keep the traditional approach to battling. I want partner characters that have their own character, if you will. Unique abilities and things like that. But the two things I'd change with a future Paper Mario is I want a difficulty option. I don't need the game to be harder at baseline. I just want to be able to select hard mode. Okay? Challenge for me is a feature in gaming.
It is. I can test.
And so,
and optional challenge, it allows it to still be accessible.
yes.
Right?
I'd also tested
yeah.
that.
Nintendo cares
so-
about accessibility, so let's have that optional challenge.
Yeah, so I mean, like, if they want to make a hard mode and they can call it like Kaizo Paper Mario or something like that, cool. Just I want it. I want to be able to experience. I want to have to think, okay, shoot, this is kicking my butt. How can I change my strategy to win? I want that for Paper Mario. I want them to ramp up the challenge enough, or at least give me the option to ramp the challenge up enough that I have to think like that, because then I get excited about those things. And then the other thing I would change is I want multiple party members available in battle at a time.
Oh,
Because
That'd be a simple evolution of Thousand Year Door, but that would add a layer of strategy.
that'd be
and I think that there's a lot of things they could do to make that work. In my experience, and I've been an RPG fan for a very long time. It feels like to me the moment that you cross the sweet spot threshold for being able to really strategize and do some crazy gambits to turn around a seemingly impossible battle, usually happens when you've got three partners, three playable characters, and the more the better. That's my experience, at least. So if you could have like Mario plus three of his partner characters, or maybe Mario and Luigi and a few partner characters, something like that, to really be able to create some action synergies between the different units, I would be all over that.
And the final point is also related to the battle system. The equipable badges and other things you get in Thousand Year Door, they allow more strategy, more customization. You give your character a build, basically, right? And customize your combat abilities. That's better. It's better than what you get in. There's not really much of that in Origami King. So that's clearly better to give you more ways to customize, to strategize. If you're gonna have a traditional RPG system, that's what you need to do, and that's better. So to conclude,
And if I can add a quick sixth point, I feel like from a lore storytelling, like a world building perspective, Thousand Year Door also takes the cake there. It's not like it has the most in-depth story ever told. I mean, this is a Mario game, so what do you expect? But some of the, especially some of the ending sequences, those can produce some pretty good feels. I don't know. They made it really epic.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go.
Yes, I agree. I want the lore, the world design from a story standpoint, combined with the open area exploration of Origami King. That would be fun for me. I want to see that, what that would be.
I think that's the optimal mix.
Yeah. So to conclude, having recently played Thousand Year Door and beaten it, even though I've made this video arguing for things that Origami King does better, I still think Thousand Year Door is the pinnacle of the series. It's the best Paper Mario game, but I don't think it's the only good one. And I feel like Origami King is underrated. The problems people have with Origami King, I think, can be avoided. And that's how I played it. I loved knowing how much I despise grinding and being forced to grind in an RPG. I felt freedom. I felt like, these ring battles have gotten boring with these normal enemies. I don't have to do them. I don't need EXP from fighting these guys. I'll just avoid it. I'll avoid any battle that isn't blocking the story. And the ones that are blocking the story, like I'm exploring and I can't proceed because there's an enemy in the way, I'll fight those. My reward is being able to progress past them. So it was interesting to play Origami King and feel this freedom, this complete freedom from EXP grinding. And I know, Anthony, I've told you that before, and your argument was something like, well, why would I play a game where they have systems that they don't even want me to use, or something like that, right?
Yes. That does sound a little familiar.
Yeah.
But my argument is, if you're playing Origami King, it's clear that the ring system is flawed, especially for the normal battles. So why don't you skip all the optional ones? Walk right past these mobs. All you'll get from them is some coins or something. There's no need to feel like you have to fight everything. Move past them, get your heart containers that make it even easier to avoid battles you don't want to do. Bonk the enemy outside of battle and then have them disappear. I appreciated that. I felt freedom. No need for grinding at all. So that's a personal preference.
I can appreciate that. The ability to just engage with the game, the parts that's fun, and not make it so that the fun is gated behind something that's not fun. I definitely understand the value. I think
I was going with that though. Sorry to interrupt. The ring system didn't get super old and tedious for me because of the way I avoided it. So when I did have to engage with it, because it was part of the story, there was an enemy blocking the story progress, I was okay with that because I wasn't burnt out on it already. And my reward was being able to progress past them. So I was still getting rewarded for engaging with the system at those points. But
Sure. The funny way I'd put it, my reward for engaging in the battle system in Origami King was listening to the music. That was it. And that was a pretty good reason. Those songs were bangers. But no, I mean, to your point earlier about our earlier conversation, I mean, I'm not going to complain that the game gives me ways to avoid engaging with systems that I hate. But I'm also going to always prefer that the solution they take is making the systems that I hate actually be good systems. So like if they did something like that, I really love having an incentive to engage with a thing in a game, and so that's probably that's one of the biggest reasons why I prefer Thousand Year Door's combat system. So I think Origami King was probably in large part saved because I didn't have to do that stuff. Yeah. But if they'd made me want to, I would have liked that even better.
But the way that they would make you want to normally would be to require you to grind for EXP.
No, because that doesn't increase my desire. It doesn't. It just
most games would do. Like the reward being forced to engage with it is because you need EXP. That's the way most games would handle it.
But I didn't say make me be forced to engage with it. I said make me want to do it.
There you go.
That's very good distinction there.
Yeah, that's a good distinction, and I agree. That's what they need to do. They need to do with the series. Let's not bring back gimmicks, and let's give us compelling reasons to want to actually use these systems. Mm-hmm. I want to give one final extra credit to Origami King, and maybe I should have done this with some of my points that I was making about unique characters in Thousand Year Door. Origami King, I feel like because of its weird limitation with unique characters, the NPC designs, the writing is actually incredible.
Yeah, the writing was really good.
You have to find these hidden toads, right? and you have fun ways of like
Yeah.
finding them and
That was really fun.
and rescuing them.
And every single one is a comedian.
Yeah.
Yes, they're so good, and they really felt like Korok seeds.
Yeah, look,
Korok seed answer for a Paper Mario.
another
really
Zelda,
like looking-
another Zelda connection there, Steve. There you
Yeah.
go.
Mm-hmm.
The writing in Origami King is super clever, humorous, and smart. I was consistently impressed with how much personality they gave these Toad characters, these generic
Yeah.
Toad, just with the writing.
It's true. The people who made the game were told, well, you're not allowed to make them look interesting. So they're like, okay, we'll just make them be interesting then. You know,
Yeah.
they did a ton with the limitations that they had, and there was actually some moments too where they kind of smack you upside the head with some unexpected feels. It was well done.
Yeah.
The so my opinion is that if you simply modded Origami King to have unique character designs and didn't change anything else, it would be solved. You know,
Oh, well, I'd still want you to change the battle system, but yeah.
no. I mean,
Yes, please.
talking specifically about because there was a big fan uproar about we found out that they have this weird limitation. They can only have generic Mario looking characters. That's so dumb.
Mm.
But the writing in Origami King is so good that if all you did was like mod in some different visuals, like okay, this toad looks unique now, and they didn't change the writing at all, like it's solved. You know,
That's
You
true.
have the-
I can
you
see what
have
you're
visual
saying.
variety, the writing and personality variety is already there.
You basically what you're saying is they would just change the character design to match the writing that's already there.
Yes.
Mm.
And that's how good it is. Like the writing makes up for that limitation. I feel like because they had that weird limitation, they leveled up the writing. And so
For sure.
now I kind of want to see that. I want Origami King where the only difference is make the NPCs look unique, but have that same writing, and who would still be complaining at that point about
Right.
that aspect of the game. But that's it for me. Those are the things between these two games that I think are great. Overall, Thousand Year Door does win. Perhaps maybe this video has convinced somebody to give Origami King a chance, and maybe use some of these strategies I've described for avoiding the parts of it that you don't need to engage with, and just enjoy the amazing things that are there. There are things worth experiencing.
The way I would sum up the Origami King is that it's a game that somehow manages to be great in spite of some very glaring limitations. And that is a feat in and of itself. I honestly think that if Origami King had gotten rid of its gimmicks and taken a more, at least fan-beloved approach, is what I would call it, that it might have been able to vie for the top spot in the series. I feel like there's a lot of reasons it's top in class in several aspects. So, and what I feel like Thousand Year Door Remake is only proving is that the sweet spot is in the middle. You know, some of my favorite things about the remake are the things that it borrowed from Origami King. So, at the end of the day, what we're telling you is the Origami King is a worthwhile game. It's flawed, but it's worth playing. There's a lot of, and if for no other reason than just to get the context for those songs. Oh man,
Yeah.
Yeah, for real, right? They're all so good.
so worth playing. Yeah, that's our opinion.
Both games should be played. Well, Thousand Year Door should be played, and Origami King is worth playing. I don't mean to diss. I'm not trying to diss.
No.
Right? I'm saying that I think that Origami King did some things better.
And it's fair.
It's
So
fair.
basically, what would it be fair to sum it up then this way? Thousand Year Door is a must play. Origami King is a should play. How's that?
Ooh,
Ooh.
I like it. I like it.
Because I mean, it's just one step down for me. There's as David has been highlighting, there are several things that I view with much more fondness for Origami King. Overall reviews aside,
I want the future of the series to blend only the great things from both games, right?
Mhm.
Oh, they'd be banging.
And maybe some of that is debatable what the great things are, but I think the music is something. Let's take that greatness from Origami King. Let's combine it. Let's carry it forward into the series. I want to hear that level of greatness again in the future.
Yes, please.
Let's take maybe some of that variety that you get in Origami King, the gameplay variety, the more interactive world, the more open areas. I'd love to see that come back. And obviously all the final things I said in favor of Thousand Year Door, let's keep those. That's maybe the biggest sign that Thousand Year Door overall wins, is I don't really have things that they should get rid of from it, except Goombella. There's nothing like majorly flawed with Thousand Year Door.
Just things we can add to it to make it a little bit better.
Yes. So, to conclude, thank you for listening. Thank you for humoring me with this discussion. And if you have any comments, please share them. If you have any if you agree with me about Origami King, I'd love to hear that. Of course, just any other opinions you have about this topic. So, until next time,
Keep it nerdy.
Keep it nerdy.